So are we turning? You say you're sitting like the queen? Are you catty cornering yourself?
Well, last time I was like this and I didn't like it. So I'm just opening myself up to the audience. I'm signaling.
Not closing yourself off. You're opening yourself
I'm
up.
opening.
Welcome back to the Pro Show, guys. We are getting rolling here with another recording session. It's Brad and Nikki.
Hello.
So hopefully this sounds okay. I guess I'm going to have to wash it through something. It sounds awful in my headphones. But
well, that's a way to intro it.
Well, here's a secret. I'm not a sound engineer. I'm a decent videographer, but I'm not like the best sound engineer. So,
do you remember that full-time filmmaker episode where the guy showed his sound machine stuff?
I don't have any of those.
That was a big room of stuff.
What I'm hearing in my headphones is that we need to get a pair of Shure SMB7 microphones.
So wait a second.
That's what I'm hearing in the headphones. It's just like screaming that out to me that we need to make an investment into something that we do for our business.
But not to keep us warm.
You would drop like $2 or $3 grand for one afternoon of an activity, but like $500 for our business is like, do we really need that? I don't think it unlocks anything. I think we can wear jeans and a jacket and be just fine on Sunday.
You're going to be wishing you had it.
Well, welcome back to the Pro Show. It's Brad and Nikki, and we're here for another episode. We're excited to talk to you today. Hey, Nikki. Hey, sweetie.
Hey, I'm here.
I want to actually start with an update because I'm not sharing anything and get that look like you're going to reveal things you're not supposed to reveal, or I could share. But last time we sat down and talked, we talked a lot about the fun and exciting journey that we've had renaming our business, or at least changing the name that we do business under. That's another conversation for another day.
Let's be honest. It was our frustrations.
I was being facetious, sweetie.
I know. Wanted to be clear.
Thank you. So that's been quite a journey, and I'd love to say that we got off the podcast and we had this great name and we moved forward with it. We did find out a couple of things. So we did talk with a naming expert, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about that because I think this is relevant, not relative. I think it's relevant in anybody that's going through this process. We were looking at, okay, we don't want to do something that's overdone or something we can't get a domain name for. So we sit down with the naming expert expecting all this feedback on all these ideas we have. And we were going so deep into making sure that we pick the right words that like embodied, feelings and the journey and this. Yeah, we were looking for this aha moment. She's like, yeah, you need a legal name.
She said a legal name is a happy name.
That's right. And I like that. And we had not given as much thought to that. And I guess that sounds naive now that I say it, that that's an obvious thing that we needed a legal name. But we really hadn't given it a lot of thought. And so we started doing some trademark searches and looking around. And it turns out a lot of things have been used. And with trademarks, one thing that we learned was it's not just about exact matches. So let's say one of the words we liked, which we're not using, so I think I can just share it. We really like the word ignite. It's a fun word. It turns out there's a lot of other marketing companies that have liked that word too. And there's a whole lot of variations of ignite marketings out there. And that was enough to put us off from it. But my initial thought was if we could change that a little bit, that would be fine. Like there might be an Ignite marketing where we could be an Ignite group or Ignite specialist or team or whatever. Well, it turns out with trademarks, it's not about having a unique word. It's about having something that is unique enough that it doesn't confuse the consumer. And that really changes things up. So that means you can't add the group or the team or the firm or the whatever to a name and make it a legal name. And you could end up with a name that lands you right into a cease and desist order.
Or even if the domain name is available.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Give you a green light.
Yeah, you can find domain names. I mean, I thought that was the overcrowded market, but it really turns out it's the trademarks. And even if someone hasn't trademark law in the United States, which is the common law, is that if you have a name and use it for your business,
and it's close enough,
you're infringing upon an implied right to do that. So that really complicates things. So it's like, just because a small company in Idaho has a name that you like, and you're like, well, we don't even serve the same clients. If our clients cross over at all, or if it was implied, or they were doing business first, they would have a leg to stand on legally against us. And we, there's no sense in having a name that's a problem. So that was a big eye opener for us. And that's really thrown us into quite a loop over the last...
I don't know what happened.
I don't either. Sorry about that. So that's really thrown us for a loop. And we were kind of back to the drawing board. So what went from this, looking for this existential moment in our naming process, went to, can we get a good set of words that make sense, that are legal?
Yeah, non-confusing words.
Yeah,
that
so
we can go ahead with.
We certainly talked about keeping the closing guys a couple of times. But so the exciting news, I think we've landed on a name that is legal. I think it resonates. I think it's clear. I think it has some deeper meaning for us. And maybe not by the next time we record, but certainly in the near future, I think that we'll have some news to talk about with an updated name. So
I don't want to get too excited. It's just been a traumatic experience.
It is very traumatic. Well, it turns out that the closing guys marketing has not been used by anybody else, and that was actually a unique name. And we did not do that much due diligence. I mean, when we incorporated the closing guys, obviously the attorney is looking inside the state. They do the equivalent of a legal name search inside the state, but they don't do it across the country. Well, let me put it this way: there's no U.S. wide trademark for that. So thank goodness the name that we already have, that's our corporate name, hopefully won't have to be changed. But
no, that went smooth. That went real smooth compared to this.
Yeah, that went real smooth. I still think that's kind of confusing, but we certainly have had thoughts about keeping it, just because we have it and it's legal and we have the domain names and all those things. So anyway, you're going to be able to find us at theclosingguys.com. If you search for The Closing Guys, we're not going to disappear that.
Oh, no, we've built too much time and effort into those channels. It is our corporate name, so it'll always be, but big things coming.
Big things.
I hate when people say that.
I know, me too. I am so tired of YouTubers getting on with all these announcement teases about all the things coming and the big things and this and that.
The latest big car.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've totally ruined you with all I follow all the car YouTubers, and they purchase cars every other week, which it's talk about distorting your reality. But
Anyways.
What
are we talking about today?
We could talk about anything. No, I thought that we would talk about something because it came up in conversation between you and I. We're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn.
I like LinkedIn.
I know you like LinkedIn, and I still have not used it like I should.
You have not bought into it.
It's not that I haven't bought into it. I'm just as guilty as everybody else with its... I pretty much checked out of social media this year.
We both did greatly.
Which is kind of okay, here's the conclusion we came to. One, we did it. COVID happened. Social media got very tense. Other charged things going on in the country that everybody is aware of and has seen were going on. And I just needed to back away from the environment that was there. We were busy with clients. So we made the mistake that our clients also make, which is they get too busy running the day-to-day of their business to, put their business out there. But I did step away for other reasons. That being said, when it comes to my social media routine, I'm like the youngest person in the world that still scrolls Facebook. I don't anymore, but I still scroll. That was my habit more than really any other platform. Which is, bizarre because no one's on Facebook. And most of the posts on Facebook are really just copies over from Instagram anyway, right? At least from people, a lot of people.
Well,
and the
for
older
businesses.
Anyway, so I'm more Facebook, Instagram. I did a few TikTok videos over this year because I think it was fun for a minute, and then people were taking TikTok videos to like the next level of entertainment, and it is just, if you want to be doing things that are popular, you know, YouTube Reels and TikTok are cool and all, I don't think for a lot of businesses it's all that relevant.
Well, here's the thing that I was thinking of while you were talking. And one of the reasons why it was okay.
Instead of potentially listening to me.
I was listening. One of the benefits of stepping back is actually something that was a benefit. The consuming part was, I have to post. I have to put out content. I have to do that. But if you think back now, we weren't 100% on what our message was. We didn't have a clear understanding of what our content should be doing, the strategy of the message. And by stopping the posting and creating content, we actually spent that time on focusing on what the message should be doing. And I think that's where we get clients sometimes. They're like, my posting's not working. No matter what platform you're putting it on, whether you're putting it on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, if you don't have that first pivotal foundation first, it doesn't seem to work. And then a lot of people go back and then say, oh yeah, I forgot to get the messaging right. And so there was a silver lining in stopping doing the content for a quick minute. It allowed us to spend that time to really think and focus on what our message should be.
Well, you know, we were going through a phase where we were, you know, reinventing ourselves a bit. And I think we'd gotten to where our content was, we were struggling with what to make. It's not that I don't think we didn't know what our message was. It's that we had all these competing messages because we changed a lot of things that we did, you know, and we had that like initial message and that initial thing that we were doing. And then we really brought in heavy on the video, and it was like, who are we talking to? And what is our content? I think as much as anything is, how did it fit into our funnel? Not was it relevant or who was it relevant to even, it was how does this fit into a funnel, which when it comes to marketing, it comes to content, let's just be honest, we make it because it's part of a funnel.
Right.
And if it's not serving that interest, then it just ought to be for you and your friends and your family because you want to make it. Don't make it for your business for any other reason. I mean, you're not making content to be there. You're making content to serve a purpose. The reason you do it on a regular basis is the necessary evil of it. And I'm not, you know, trying to be negative with that comment, but if we could make one piece of content, so go back 50 years, you know, when the only way to get out there was traditional outlets, the radio, a print ad, television. You made one piece of content and it was good for a cycle, and they just played it again and again for you. Well, on social media, the way that a lot of this stuff works is you have to continually make content. You can't just keep replaying the same video. So it creates a thing where you have to do it on a regular basis. And that's why we do that. Not because we desire to be in front of things more.
Or be enslaved to it.
And it can feel that way. And I think the further we got away from it having purpose, the harder it was. And I think that's part of the shift in this podcast. I mean, you know, we're back in this whole moment of, are we being too honest on the podcast? Are we saying too much? Because that's what's playing in the back of my mind. I'm like, man, are we supposed to keep this closer to the chest? But that's the reality is we were making content, and the further it got from what we were actually trying to provide as a service, it was like, okay, producing this podcast, interviewing this group of people with this subject matter no longer is relevant.
Yeah. It made it harder. Made it harder to...
So let's talk about some mistakes we made right there in the beginning of that. And we'll circle back to LinkedIn. We are going to talk about LinkedIn.
Sorry.
For like 2 seconds, and then we're going to cut the podcast off. I wanted to do this. I think podcasting is a fantastic way to communicate with others. It is like a vlog, but it is a conversation that can be consumed in longer form without someone's full attention. And that just really fits with today. And it's nice to communicate with people that way. So when we started our podcast, my desire was to do it. So we were like, okay, what people are relevant in this field that we're trying to talk to? And just like some other things that we did when this podcast started 2 years ago, the goal was to make the podcast. And it never, ever fit properly as a piece to a funnel. And all the great business podcasts, I don't know if you realize this or not, they are the what's called as a tract is what we call it. But it's the awareness portion of a funnel for their business. It is not to provide you with just more content. It's not their outlet to share their hopes, dreams, or feelings. They are providing awareness. They provide value in it.
Nurture you.
As a way to build a relationship with you so you do business with them.
Eventually.
Yeah. I mean, they don't even, well, most of them ask you to do business every podcast. And you might just kind of tone it out. But that's the purpose of it. And the people that are on the podcast, they're on the podcast circuits, usually also have something to sell. Now, the good ones provide tons of value and are interesting. But that's part of it. And we started a podcast that had...
We gave lots of value.
We gave value to the end user. I think we gave a lot of value to our clients.
But we didn't know how to put it into a funnel.
But it wasn't part of our funnel. And that was a mistake. And so as we shifted away from it and it became further and further from what we did, it stopped making sense. And so we had to take that step back. And so you're absolutely right. Taking a step back from what we were doing allowed us to gain our own clarity, the most overused word in our community, and come back around. And now we kind of know who we are serving and what the point of us recording is. And it becomes about the people who we want to talk to.
I also think that we decided analysis what we really thought was the best, not necessarily in our funnel, but what was the best way to do content. And we didn't necessarily evaluate the barriers in between. So we made it more complicated than it needed to be because we felt strongly that that was the way to get the best content out. So when we made it harder, we got kind of sidetracked on how it was going to work into a funnel, and it just became contention. I think it was stress. So.
Yeah, to do a podcast. So early on, every single podcast we did for 2 seasons, 2 good long seasons. It felt like 2 long seasons. I think we probably did 40 episodes. Were live and had guests who were also live in person. We did 1 guest who wasn't in person.
Yeah.
So we were broadcasting live and doing in-person interviews. That creates a whole mess of complication, and we were determined to do it at a certain day and time.
Yes, because we were putting it out live as well.
Live. So I'm saying we weren't just going live and hitting the live button. Like I know there are podcasts out there that like when they sit down to record, they also go live.
Oh yeah.
But they may not. We were actually like we wanted to be like have programming. So like it was like Tuesdays or Thursdays or whatever day it was at 12 or 12:30 we went live on the podcast with the guest. Well, that is a stressful way to create content. And like you said, it became contention. And so, a lot of things fueled that, our desire to provide what we thought people wanted. But you have to balance that. You cannot make your content creation journey something that is, and I'm being dramatic, the bane of your existence. And it created contention between all 3 of us.
It made it a big roadblock instead of getting benefits of it. So
Yeah, so there's some kind of wisdom in there somewhere that I think you can glean from that. But don't turn things that you need to do for your business, especially things that are not as closely connected to your business as like doing the job or talking to a client, something that's impossible to do. Because we already have to remind ourselves, okay, this is an important part of building our future business. Yeah. You know, podcasts don't pay off today. We don't do a podcast and then it turns into money. I mean, maybe one day it will be so popular that our podcast will be actually monetized. But for most of us, we're doing this as a way to connect with people. And so that means it's like, you know, it's farming, it's planting seeds. And planting seeds is, you know, it isn't always exciting as reaping. Yeah. Right?
Harvesting.
So I'm sorry. It's just one inside joke after another. So anyway, man, that is a whole lot to go back. We are so bad about
LinkedIn, when you put your content. So
I'm not a LinkedIn person by nature. I do believe in it, and I am making a commitment. What I was going to say about 30 minutes ago is I'm making a commitment. There is a group of people that I do need to connect with on LinkedIn, and that is something I'm going to do over the next few days. So
you were never, let's kind of go back for a second. You were never a LinkedIn person because you didn't.
I've never had a job.
You have had jobs. You didn't have a corporate job. And that's where the popularity of LinkedIn came from, where people were shopping for jobs. You would connect all the people you worked with, and the thought was why? Because I'm working here. But it was like, oh, if we ever get laid off, we might need to find a job. And that's why we started LinkedIn on. And you had all these friends. And so I never did anything with it. We never posted content. We didn't do content. We were employees.
Well, LinkedIn wasn't for content up until they also wanted to get on the bandwagon. So if you look at social media, like all the platforms are not designed the same, but they all have become a lot the same. The rise of... So every social platform has realized, even if this was not their initial mission, was revenue works best when you keep people there for longer. Yeah. And so creating a culture where people hang out and either put content or consume. And so by content, we mean like anything you read or watch. Mm-hmm. When people hang out there, when you give people a reason to hang out and scroll, mm-hmm. they stay longer. If they stay longer, people that spend money on ads pay more. And so every platform has adopted this whole thing. So LinkedIn
now has a feed with content and videos and even stories now.
Is there really?
There really is.
I've been a little disconnected from LinkedIn, so I'm so glad we have an expert on the team. As you will find, I am not an expert in everything. And this may come as like a complete shock to everyone listening. It's just the disappointment. I can just feel it from anyone listening. They're like, what? Brad is not an expert in everything?
That's okay. I represent the LinkedIn side of this.
You're the expert in a lot of things that I front for. But what's interesting is of the people we work with, LinkedIn is a really valuable tool. And yet people are still not utilizing it. It's the most amazing thing in the world how LinkedIn continues to be underutilized in the right way.
Well, and I think that's important. So it was not as crowded. So you got more reach, right? So people weren't
still not as crowded.
No, it's not. And it's so, the joke is there's not as many cat videos on there. So like what you would expect on Facebook. And so when people are going through, it's supposed to be more professional, but there's not many people making content there. So your content, they push to more people. And because of the way that the algorithm works, it exposes your content to people, to other connections. So people that know your connections, your second connections, and so on, which was great. It's fabulous. It's like being at a convention, at a conference, and someone not having to introduce you, your content getting putting out, but you have to make content for that to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's really neat in that aspect, but some of the aspects, people came over from Facebook or Instagram and used those, and they seem like they were doing really well because they were making content. So of course it was getting out there. But I don't necessarily agree with some of their tactics. Yes, it's like the whole Instagram, you could buy hashtags, you could buy followers with hashtags and so on. Just because their followers grew didn't necessarily mean that they were quality connections necessarily. And they are not necessarily influencers. They were just people with lots of follows.
Right. So I think that train of thought, and we probably should have a conversation about that, but that would take a little bit of time to explain. I think we're going to quickly talk over the heads, and I don't mean that in any way, but we're going to talk over people's heads with some concepts that deserve explanation to understand the difference. You know, people in this world understand the difference between followers and business and what does this all mean and how is their relation, but without getting into that. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think we have to come back and talk a little bit about that part of it. We had a conversation the other day, and it's something you've said to me many, many times about the way persons are conducting themselves on LinkedIn. And what is it? Because what I think would be good is, one, let's talk a little bit about things you may want
My pet peeves?
You want to avoid.
Okay. So LinkedIn is supposed to be professional, right? So think business to business. So you should act like you were going to someone's business and how you would present yourself. That's like you were on a business call, you were going to someone's office. That's the first thought. That's how you interact. When you post, you are in their workspace. That's the mindset that you're in.
That's a really good tip. No, but I'm serious. That's a really good tip. When you're on Instagram, the feeling is
you're at the gym.
To talk in your personal voice.
Yes.
And if you want to rant personally, it's like you're standing with your buddies at the gym or the bar or the wherever, put in the place you hang out, and that's okay. LinkedIn is a different space.
Yes, you should. Now, people do go on rants and so on, but it's okay just as much as you would show a personal side on to your coworkers. There still can be personable, but it's still like you're at somebody's workspace. So you should have that mindset. You might dress a little different and that, show up a little different. So that's the first thing. Because of their tools, when people say that they work someplace or they give themselves a title, it enables people to use that for search. So, for example, if I have something to sell, let's just say I'm a healthcare salesperson, insurance, okay? And I happen to sell to looking for doctors or owners or whatever. I can use the tools that are there if I so choose and find out all the people on LinkedIn with those titles. So it makes it very easy to not actually get to know them, but like send them junk mail, so unsolicited mail. So you can send them messages and it says on there, like if they've paid, it says sponsored. As well as they might actually take the step, and a lot of people take the tactic of hiring like a VA. Oops. They actually go through the process. I don't know what that was.
I don't know what was happening.
They might actually go through the process of hiring a VA or someone to make connection request for them. So I don't know you. I don't know anybody connected to you. Certain levels you have to, LinkedIn will stop them. But I go out and I start paying someone to farm connections for me. And then I have a blanket template to send to them to say, hey, I want to do business with you. Mm-hmm. And the atmosphere has been kept so in LinkedIn, it's really policed by the users, that's not okay. Don't send me a blanket statement of, hey, I'm so awesome. I can save you money. Do business with me. In LinkedIn, that's not okay. It's an equivalent of an ad or salesperson, a car salesman. That's not okay in there. And then what we were complaining about when I was complaining about pet peeve is I didn't respond to these. Most people just don't.
Yeah. So just walk us through like kind of what happened, generally speaking. You don't have to do any specifics.
So got a request to connect with somebody. And I usually connect with just about anybody that sends me connection requests, which is great. If I get around to putting content back out there, it exposes my content to people. Fabulous. And then I immediately got a message. Well, it was a sales message. I just ignored it. I didn't say anything. And then they sent another message the next week because that's what their VA was supposed to do, the next message. And then the next message. And it was like, the next message was, I hope I'm not disturbing you. But it was still salesmen. And they don't know me. They didn't read anything, and you could tell it was absolutely a canned system. It was a funnel that was set up and somebody was using it. And I'm like, I will never connect with you. I'll never chat with you about that.
Yeah. And it was several. It didn't just stop with one or two. It was a barrage of messages. So, I think the word I like to use is troll.
Yes.
LinkedIn is being trolled by people. And it I don't understand this, and I guess I see it in other places, and maybe it's a numbers game, and maybe it's a game I've never really played, so I can't speak to it, how the mechanics of how it works. But I don't understand how this ever works, and I see people doing it, and it's a certain group. It's a certain group, and I get it. They are commission-only outside salespeople who work independently, and I get a lot of them. So, not trying to step on toes.
Yeah.
But insurance salesmen and things of the like.
They get a bad rap.
I'm just saying what I get in my inbox.
Yeah.
And what amazes me is people think because everyone is there for business, that you don't even really have to hardly say hello before you give me unsolicited sales messages, like your full spiel. Like, it's like, hey, will you connect with me? And you say yes. And then the first thing I get in my inbox is this monster spiel about what they do. And then if I don't respond, it's just followed up with message after message after message after message of the same.
Yes, basically it just changed the same. So I pulled up this one that every now and then I feel compelled. I got a spur to answer back to someone. And this one, she looks nice enough, but she sent me this and says, I work with businesses like yours, okay, to publicize an online video that endorses your company. Well, I'm confused by that. This video would tell the story of your business and attract new clients. I can send you a free marketing report with details. Just reply with your email and company website URL. Thanks. Okay, well, first of all,
so
my company name and URL are on my profile.
Yeah, they're one and the same. So you haven't looked at it.
Third of all, I make videos.
Yeah, we get paid to create videos
and to publicize my own video.
We're a marketing company.
and I actually don't advocate that somebody make a video just about the story to attract their clients. Because
that doesn't attract anyone.
So my response was, thanks for reaching out. However, we produce our own videos for us and our clients. I actually advocate that businesses not invest in telling their story, but provide value-based content to attract their ideal clients. Videos are big investments for most companies. And you're changing it again. So they need to maximize. So they need to maximize their investment, making a video that makes them the most money. Telling their story is a much later priority in our strategy. Happy to connect, and we can continue to learn from each other. She didn't respond.
So that was the big shocker. I was going to ask, did they actually respond? No. So it's just like what you said. It's just this like ridiculous trolling in someone's private inbox. And I don't know. And I don't know who will hear this or whatever, but my suggestion is if you're thinking about using LinkedIn, you'd be much better to err on the side of producing content that doesn't monetize than this tactic. So like when you hire, and that's like been like the thing, right? Over the last 10 years, VAs have really come into the rise. Everybody's got a VA that works for them. So everybody's got this inexpensive workforce that can do things that they would never do on their own at a volume that they would never have the time to do it. And you start hiring people like that to go blast people. And you don't think it through. So like, yeah, if I was out there researching a company and I found somebody I liked and I made a connection request, and let's say I was this forward. Let's say that I assumed because someone said they wanted to connect with me that I should just start with my sales spiel, which like sales 101 guys, like, no, never, ever.
Don't
ever.
show up and say, hey, my hand is out.
Even the used car salesman
takes you for a ride in the car.
Thank you. He's like, what car are you interested in? Oh, it's this one. Let me get you the keys and take you for a ride. Like, he's at least going to show you the product first.
We have a visitor.
All right, so we're back with a visitor here. So we'll wind this down. Everybody meet Mr. Oliver. Ollie, say hi to everybody watching this.
You say hi.
Can you say hi?
He steals the show.
Yeah, usually he is very talkative and has lots to say to people, especially on camera, but he just woke up. So that's actually one of the things we want to talk a little bit. I think working with kids at home has become such a reality. How relevant. Maybe we'll talk about that when we get some opportunity later. But the whole thing is like Sales 101, like all these things, it violates all these things. And where I was headed with this was, your reputation is your brand. So if you are an insurance salesman, and I just, kind of being blunt because I get a lot of those, the things you say are your brand. And if you send messages like companies like yours and we can do such and such and what's your URL, and it's in someone's profile, you do realize that's like destroying your reputation because you're not honest. Like, if I say companies like yours, that implies that I've gone and looked at your company. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to go do research on somebody and find out about them and reach out to them and be a little too forward, at least be honest with what you're doing. And
it's not too hard. I mean, in LinkedIn, one of the first things I do when I connect with somebody, if I'm interested in what they're doing, is I go look at what their activity is, which is what content have they made. Right? That's the first thing I can go do. And so in this example, one of the most recent posts I did was a video that we made. So, I mean, it's not that hard to go see what people are talking about on these platforms. So use them.
Yeah. Like just don't do that. Just don't do that. Don't pay a VA to do that. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it's a huge pet peeve of ours. And we just really wanted to complain about it a little bit. And I just wanted to remind anybody, you hear this and you're thinking about using social media, this is not how to use it. It will not yield results, and it's only going to damage your reputation in these forms. And maybe LinkedIn isn't policed yet, but it will be. Yeah. So here's my tip. When you're using things to reach out to people, whether it's an email or a direct message on a social platform like LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever it is, people are coming into a sales funnel. And this is the key. You don't put people in your sales funnel. They get in. Mm-hmm. And that is the piece you can never, ever forget in marketing. This is why spam emails don't work. This is why they've made it illegal. Because as far as the government is concerned, the powers that be are concerned, you cannot put people into your funnel, into your sales funnel. They have to choose. It's called opt-in, right? And they can opt out. And you have to let people maintain that choice, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because if they don't make that decision, they're not going to be interested in anything you say. You are doing nothing for yourself and nothing for them. So when someone says, yes, I'll connect with you, that is not opting into your sales funnel. That is connecting with you. So then you need to think about, okay, how do I do a relationship? Because that's what they've said, hey, you can come be in my circle, my LinkedIn circle. Not how would I respond to them if they downloaded my lead magnet and I'm now sending them emails. You know what I'm saying? This is not follow up to a sales call talk.
Yeah. And messengers are more personable. You should treat them different than you just treat like a canned email.
Yeah, there's an individual on the other end of that, and you're individually sending them a message. You cannot use that to spam people. And I know I'm being about it, but man, I feel like it needs to be said because it is it's totally out of hand. And I know no one wants to be a telemarketer, but if you do stuff like this on social media, you are being that. Maybe even worse. Maybe even a step worse because you're infringing on people.
So now my phone tells me when a number, and I don't know how it decides, but it'll say possible spam. I am never going to answer the phone call that says potential. I think it's potential spam. A phone message. I'm never going to do that. Right? It's the same thing in my LinkedIn. If I think that's what it is, I'm never going to respond.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or in Facebook or Instagram. Just social.
The flip side to this is there is a way to market yourself directly to go out to people. So actually on our next episode, let's talk about how to use social media for guerrilla marketing. Okay. Grassroots, one-to-one marketing where you're not paying for ads, you're not doing those things. This is, I want to get in there and do something. We're going to talk about how to do that because it does work, and there is a way to do this and not just be above board, but actually have success.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I think that's it for today. We've gone way longer. I didn't time this, but I'm sure we've gone way longer than we meant to. If you stuck around this point, we really appreciate you. Really appreciate you listening. We'd love to hear your questions. Love to hear what are you guys struggling with in your business? What do you have questions on?
We can ramble about whatever topic they want to hear.
At some point, I'd like to talk about something that we're not struggling about. We'd love to spend more time answering your questions. So send those to us. Put them in the comments below. Send us a direct message. I openly invite any messages on any of my social profiles. In fact, if you're just spamming me, I really don't even care. Give me something to talk about, complain about. And if you have questions, we'd love to hear from you. We'll either get back to you directly or we'd love to answer them on the show. So thanks for watching the Pro Show. More stuff to come. We'll talk about how to guerrilla market on social media.
Hopefully next time we'll have a name. We'll tell them the name.
I feel like we're going to be recording too soon. I'd like to get this next episode out pretty quick. But anyway, that's another
say
sales.
Bye, Allie?
Can you tell everybody bye?
Look, can you say hi?
I
don't think so. I don't think we're there yet.
Thanks, guys.